When Kuan, fuming with rage, started growing in size, Sijuan grabbed his dagger, ready to break some branches with his battle stance. He turned and ordered the gray rabbits to call in their entire rabbit army and anyone who could fight. The gray rabbit sprinted as fast as he could, not wasting a second. Meanwhile, Kuan, storming ahead with serious and deadly eyes, leaped, showing off his fists and growling. This even shocked all the little ones in the plot. But before they could do anything or dodge, Kuan slammed into the ground, smashing multiple tiny corrupted trees into pieces, creating small shockwaves. But Kuan didn't stop there. He couldn't forget the feeling of being violated by the big corrupted ent. Like a madman, Kuan began tearing the small corrupted ents to shreds. They didn't even have a chance to defend themselves, they were just crushed. Sijuan joined the action with his dagger. With his agility, he began slicing some of the small corrupted ents in half with ease, and they died instantly on the spot, releasing their thick, sticky liquid, making sizzling sounds. Sijuan was confused, wondering where the heck those nasty things had come from. But just then, from behind, the warrior rabbit and the scythe rabbit were the first to come to help. Sijuan ordered them that no matter what, they had to stop them from invading their home, or all their crops, including many baby rabbits, would die. They couldn't let that happen. The warrior rabbit, ready for action, summoned his hammer with a serious expression, shouting, "I'm the black warrior rabbit, and it's time to show my skill." As he said this, he lunged at the ents and one by one began smashing and destroying them with the back of his hammer with ease. Sijuan stood, amazed, and praised the black rabbit, telling him he looked really cool while attacking. The black rabbit adorably winked, signaling Sijuan to leave the matters in his capable hands. Suddenly, a corrupted branch scout attacked the black rabbit from behind while he was busy showing off and unprepared to defend himself, but it was in vain. In midair, the branch was cut in half and then into multiple pieces, the fragments flying in slow motion like chopped vegetables. It was the scythe rabbit, who had sliced the branch scout with his scythe and incredible precision. Well, he was in a good mood after a passionate moment and wanted some action. The warrior rabbit, this time watching the scythe rabbit land on the ground and the ent pieces falling behind him, was left speechless. The scythe rabbit turned to the warrior rabbit, teaching and scolding him, saying, "Don't get distracted in battle or you could die. Learn some battle tactics from me." The warrior rabbit was left speechless, but before he could respond, the rabbit gang arrived. The craftsman rabbit had brought multiple farmer rabbits to fight alongside them. Even the chubby baby rabbit, despite his difficulty walking, showed immense strength. But it wasn't the end. All the queen bees with their worker bees and the entire rabbit army came to help. The war between the corrupted branches and Sijuan's cute monster army had begun. The queen bee and her bee army attacked the corrupted entities from the air, while the farmer and craftsman rabbits joined the fight with whatever they had. Those without weapons even started biting the branches, telling the evil creatures to go to hell and leave their home, and the worker bees were stinging the ents, giving them a painful death. Sijuan, now unperturbed, fought valiantly against the scouts, slicing them in halves effortlessly with his dagger. Realizing most of the branch scouts had been defeated, he encouraged his monster army to keep fighting, as they had almost killed them all, just a little more, and victory would be theirs. Everyone listened and agreed, but suddenly, the black rabbit shouted to Sijuan to look behind him. He was very worried and tense, but it was already too late. Several corrupted ents with crushing power were now marching towards them from the forest. Sijuan was in shock. Killing a fully grown ent was already hard enough, and now there was a whole freaking army of them, even bigger than the last one. Sijuan stood there, clueless about what to do, and to make things worse, the corrupted ents, with golden yellow eyes turning crimson red, were advancing towards him and his army. Seeing the huge branch scouts, Sijuan's face went pale, not knowing how many more there were. Finally, he decided not to be reckless and started running from the big corrupted tree. He told his entire monster army to run for now until he thought of a new plan. But who needs a plan when you have an adorable bear that turns big and colossal when the time comes? Kuan charged towards the ents with a grin on his face, shouting, "I'm here to save my dad," and bam! He crashed into a big corrupted tree, doing his best to save his dad and his monster family so they could run to a safe distance. He was determined to save everyone. Even Sijuan turned around at the bear's speech, who wanted the tree not to bother his dad. Kuan was really mad and was using all his strength, but just like before, he couldn't defeat the last giant ent, so this even bigger one was an even greater challenge. Kuan could barely hold a big corrupted tree, and more were marching from behind. Sijuan began to worry, as Kuan alone couldn't fight them all. He might die if things continued like this. Sijuan also knew that Mama Bear was in the forest with Theo, and the distance between the wasteland and his home was too great to call the Demon King Bull. While Sijuan was distracted, a big corrupted tree appeared behind him and was about to crush him. Sijuan's agility wasn't high enough, but this was the monster of the 99th floor. All Sijuan could do was react to the sound of the corrupted tree and look back. He wasn't fast enough to dodge the attack and was about to be crushed. Suddenly, the Demon King Bull sliced the big branch scout in two with his huge axe as if squashing an ant, surprising Sijuan to his core. He couldn't believe the Minotaur King had come to save him. Sijuan was speechless. He really thought today would be his end. Sijuan had many questions to ask, but first, the Minotaur King, with a warm smile, asked if he was okay, if he was hurt, and then, turning, showed Sijuan that everyone had come to help. When Sijuan turned around, he saw both Bull 3 and Bull 4 fighting the corrupted Ents. Bull 3 was crushing an Ent with his body, and Bull 4 was casually beating them to death. But that wasn't the end. From behind, Sijuan heard a loud thumping sound, and several large Ents were thrown into the sky, all torn to pieces. Looking closer, it was none other than Sijuan's dear wife. She was furious too. How could these dirty, disgusting things try to harm Sijuan? Mad with rage, using just her brute strength, she was tearing apart the corrupted trees, not giving them any chance to blink. Even the Minotaur King noticed Mama Bear so furious and wondered why she was so angry. He had never seen her so mad before. Sijuan couldn't understand how these creatures had known about the attack and asked the Minotaur King how they had gotten there. Suddenly, a notification appeared, informing Sijuan that the tower administrator had called them to help him. Aileen, very happy, explained that she noticed the corrupted Ent army approaching Sijuan's farm, so she contacted the Minotaur King and Mama Bear to ask for their help. The dragon lady laughed heartily, telling Sijuan that he could always count on her, and that as long as she was alive, she wouldn't let a single hair on his head be harmed. Hearing this, Sijuan smiled. He even blushed a bit and thanked Aileen for the support. Sijuan was really touched that everyone came together to help him. He was really, really happy today. Now, Sijuan stood with his dagger, his 3 queen bees, and the Minotaur King ready to follow his orders. All the rabbits were also standing with their weapons, and Kuan could barely contain himself, like the Hulk. With Sijuan's order, Avengers, assemble, everyone got into position, ready to tear apart the corrupted trees. Sijuan even promised to cook delicious food and throw a big feast once this mess was over. Hearing the promise of food, the Bull army started drooling all over their armor. Even Mama Bear and Baby Bear, along with the Black Rabbit, began hopping with joy at the announcement. The Queen Bee landed comfortably on Sijuan's shoulder, ready for action. With a confident smile, Sijuan raised his arm and shouted, "Attack!" At his command, the second phase of the war began, as all the monsters charged towards the corrupted Ents, motivated by the promise of Sijuan's delicious meat and special sauce at the grand feast. Meanwhile, on the 67th floor, what was once the dense forest of the lizards had now become a wasteland without a single blade of grass, with red locust corpses scattered everywhere. Chief Wolf and Theo observed the desperate situation. Theo, a bit confused, asked, "Wasn't the 67th floor once a dense forest? Now there's no grass for miles." The chief explained that everywhere the red locusts passed became desolate like this, not leaving a single blade of grass. Surprised by the devastation caused by the red locusts, but noticing multiple wolf workers still laboring in the field to rebuild the area, Theo curiously asked Chief Wolf what his tribe was doing. They had only been paid to transport the red locusts, so why were they also working? Chief Wolf replied that they had received a request from the lizard men to clean the ruined land since the lizard men were short on workers while fighting the red locusts. Theo asked if Chief Wolf was getting paid, but the chief responded, "No, they're not paying me. Anyway, it wasn't that hard. It was an easy job, so I accepted." This infuriated Theo. He started yelling in anger, scolding the chief, shouting, "Are you an idiot?" Still furious, Theo began walking east. The chief, concerned, asked Theo where he was going, and Theo replied that things couldn't go on like this. Turning around with an annoyed tone, he said he was going to get the money the wolves deserved. The scene shifted to an emergency camp of the lizard men where a yellow lizard was guarding the camp. Theo, standing in front of him, all confident and proud, demanded the lizard guard move since he was there to see their leader. This enraged the lizard guard, who denied Theo entry, saying not just anyone could go and see their leader. This only made Theo angrier, and he began raising his voice, shouting that he wasn't just anyone and should be treated with respect. Theo demanded they call Yona or something. Hearing Theo casually mention Yona like they were childhood friends, the guard thought Theo was just some random guy bluffing. This only made Theo angrier, and he started threatening the guard, saying to wait until he met Yona. He would make sure to teach the guard a lesson, as Yona and he had a very important relationship. Theo was already yelling, and this phrase surprised everyone. All attention turned to Theo, wondering who the heck this cat was. Meanwhile, Theo stood there, completely furious, with all the other creatures watching him, wondering if he was Yona's boyfriend. Elka, the chief, couldn't take it anymore. If he continued being Theo's bodyguard, his blood pressure would soon skyrocket. Ladies and gents, that's it for today's chapter.